All right, so
That's what beard guys do. We just stare at each other.
2,
All right.
1, hit it.
Boom, live. Hunt for Success number 11. Subscribe now. We hit our milestone of 100. We're at 106, so thank you everyone who has subscribed. We now have our own URL for YouTube, youtube.com/C/The Hunt for Success podcast. Don't ask me what the C means. That's just what YouTube gave us. So continue to share, like, and comment. The website, like we said last time, is up and running, huntforsuccesspodcast.com. Instagram, Facebook, iTunes. I'm sure you guys know how to use those search engines.
The Hunt for Success podcast. Just type it in.
Sean and Gina Purdom.
How you doing?
Good.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Oh, man, we're good.
Great.
Okay, I lied. I do have one question I have prepared.
Excellent.
How you doing?
Okay. So you guys are becoming minimalists.
We're on the way.
We met about 5 minutes ago.
Yes,
so
we
we'll
did.
get to know each other on the show. But Ryan and I know a little bit about minimalists. We have a good friend named Emerson who did exactly what you're doing back in May. Sold his house, sold all of his belongings. There's a couple of his belongings hanging on my wall at home.
Did you get them cheap?
Very cheap.
Nice.
Yeah, traded a pair of Anthrax tickets for a Coors Light mirror.
I like it.
Somebody won there.
We won't say who.
And he bought a little RV, and he's just been traveling around for 4 months now, and he's coming back in a couple weeks, and we'll have him on the show. But already, just talking to him like once or twice a month, I'm already seeing a change in him. Even because he was here for about a month after he quit his job, and just not having a job to go to was you kind of started to hate him a little bit. But my question, and I'll let you guys talk.
Sure.
My question is, politics right now are crazy. Politics in the last 72 hours, global politics, with North Korea and the U.S. starting to talk about war and bombing Guam and all this. One, has things like that in your past, natural disasters, things that make you have to worry about your family and your house. Are you looking forward to not having to worry about that? Do you think you're not going to worry about those things so much because you're mobile, be able to get up and move around and go wherever you want, and you don't have to worry about your house and all your belongings and all that stuff?
Well, I mean, I'll speak for us right now, but for me, I think it's going to be a different set of worries. I honestly, last week I said to somebody, I wish I could just float test my iPhone right now. You're so connected to everybody's knee-jerk reaction on everything. I'm kind of looking forward to having the ability to kind of process information as you get it when, for example, if we roll into a town somewhere and we're getting some connectivity, because we don't plan on having connectivity all the time, and actually processing some of this information after the fact and finding out that Armageddon did not happen in the last 2 weeks, and those type of things. So I'm kind of looking forward to stepping back from it a little bit. And I know Gina feels the same way. We just feel like we're so connected. It almost feels like the iPhone needs to be plugged into my brain. And I've got to personally for me, I have to get away from that. I think I'm missing out on a lot of life by being completely plugged in all the time. So it's kind of a long-winded answer to a short question, but it's,
It's a reward system. We were listening to Mel Robbins, I believe was her name.
Just yesterday.
Just yesterday, and she wrote a book called The 5-Second Rule about how our brains are programmed. Look at that. I broke my own rule.
Was there a duck that flew by? Oh, wait, there's a bunch of them.
We're in the museum, so there's live animals here too.
Does that thing actually make noise up there?
Yeah, they're little recordings. Yeah.
Way to not turn your cell phone off, buddy.
I know.
Nice job.
Well, I had it on so I didn't miss your guys' call if you got lost.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, Mel Robbins talks about how checking your email constantly, your brain, it triggers some reward mechanism in your brain. where
Yeah.
the reason you're doing it, one, is because you need to check your emails, but two, you want some good reward, some good news, a cool picture on Instagram.
It's
Yeah, like
stimulating.
one out of 10 emails. Well, 9 out of 10 are going to be crappy, and you're just
Yeah,
going to hit delete.
always.
But you're looking for that one.
Yeah.
That reward. So that's why she's like, you're just constantly checking and checking and checking.
It is, and it is for me. We've been very good about this. So the most recent business that Gina and I opened up is Battleground Laser Engraving and Awards and Battleground.
Say that again.
Battleground Laser Engraving and Awards.
Okay.
You need to
So like
Battleground
trophies.
Laser Engraving
Yeah.
and Awards, right? Which is we do laser engraving, we do promotional items, cups, things like that.
Bronzing.
We've
Bronzes. You do bronzes.
oh
Not
no,
bronzes.
not anything like that.
Trophies,
Trophies,
acrylic,
those kind of
glass,
things.
metal, wood, those kinds
The
of
reason why that business is different than the other things that we've done before is we've tried to really distance ourselves from that business when it's not working hours. We've tried not to check emails on the weekends. We've tried not to look at email for that business on Monday. That is not the case for the current thing that I'm doing in North Carolina. I'm also a consultant. I do manufacturing consulting, and I fly all around the United States. It seems like that is much harder to get away from. And I got to tell you, when we were on the Pacific Crest Trail last year, checking email once a week, once every 15 days, was amazing.
Yeah.
We also were on the
Oh my
trail
God.
in the height of the election
Oh.
and the campaigning. And let me tell you, the conversations we had with everybody was like, thank goodness we're hiking. We didn't want to hear, didn't want to have to participate, didn't want to have to worry.
Yeah.
Well, and they
see
were
the stuff.
probably
Yeah.
real conversations. Where
They
back
were,
here, people were
yes.
just telling each other their opinions.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, there weren't, to Gina's point, when you got done hiking for 20 miles and the last thing you were doing is talking about what was going on at home. What you were focusing on is, where am I going to sleep tonight? What's my dinner going to look like? And by golly, it better not be Top Ramen or something again, or peanut butter, or a Cliff Bar. And then you were having real, if you were with somebody, if you saw somebody that night, which you would go 2 to 3 days without seeing anybody, sometimes longer, you were talking about real things. And when I say real things, it's like, hey man, what do you do for a living? Why are you out here?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? And this is why we're doing this. And they're like, how did you guys, you're a couple. How the heck did you make that happen? Well, this is how. So the conversations that you had weren't about the bills you had to pay. They weren't about how any of that.
It wasn't all the drama.
The drama was
Life.
footstep after footstep,
Yeah.
And let me
thousands of times a day.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about that. Because
Sure.
after you have a conversation with somebody, you have a couple days to compute that conversation,
do.
right? So do you find yourself thinking about that conversation, about what people said? And,
I'll let you handle this one, babe, because this really, so 1,200 miles until I got plantar fasciitis in my foot and we had to quit. But
how far did you get?
1,200 miles out of the 2,650. So we got to Truckee, California before we had to turn around.
Yeah.
Is that before or after the John Muir? I'll stop interrupting.
After.
It's
By the time we got to that point, we had plenty of opportunity to process a lot of data. But I'll let you talk about that more, babe, because that's all you have time to do. We don't talk to each other when we're on the trail. She's 15 feet ahead of me, just close enough that I can grab her backpack if she starts going off the side of the mountain.
Which he
Right?
grabbed me a few times.
And just far enough that I'm not driving her crazy,
Yeah.
right? Because you can drive each other crazy if you're hiking together.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
We met a lot of amazing people, internationally specifically. I mean, our friends from Switzerland and Argentina
Germany.
and Germany and a lot of people from Germany.
Don't forget that foreign country, New Jersey.
Oh yeah,
There
the
were some
New
of those
Jer-
people
yeah
too.
that
They
foreign
know how to
country. New
hike there?
Well, they were
It's just
trying.
one foot in front of the other. It's pretty simple.
My mantra on really bad days is, it's just walking.
Yeah.
It's just walking. And I said that in my head over and over. But we would talk about life and how their experiences and their culture. That was probably the most amazing piece of the trail, is the international flair and the cultural differences. And we really learned how different we are in our culture versus everybody else's. We've traveled internationally, so it's not like this was the first time, but we would meet somebody and then they would go off on their rest of their journey, and we would maybe meet them up again in 100, 200 miles, we don't know, but we would sit around the campfire at night and just talk about, wow, could you imagine, maybe someday we'll have to go to Argentina and visit Ezekiel, or the Mad Hatter, as he was known.
Right.
Oh, did you guys have trail names?
We did.
We all had trail names.
What were your trail names?
Mine was Navy Bean because I'm former Navy. I got it from an Army guy. So, of course, he cursed me with that. And you don't have a choice. It is what it is.
You're given the name, and I was given the name Tough Cookie.
Tough Cookie.
I had an accident day 9, 95 miles in. I fell and I dislocated my shoulder. And so 3 days after going to an emergency room, we spent 3 days in a hotel, and I did homeopathic physical therapy and got back out on the trail and continued
Mind you,
on.
we were at
In 3
mile
days?
95 when she fell, and we quit at mile 1200.
Wow.
Yeah,
And she continued to carry a backpack.
Yeah, that's awesome.
it was. So I was deemed Tough Cookie. So those were our trail names.
So have you kept in touch with some of those people like from Argentina? And it's kind of a whole
Yes.
culture. We've had
Emery.
Emery,
Wagner on the show, and I was having a beer downtown Portland before a concert 2 weeks ago, and the guy that I took his bar stool, we started talking about Instagram, and he said, sorry, I just had to get all my pictures uploaded before I get back on the trail. And so we sat there and talked about the Pacific
Yeah.
Crest Trail. It's Barack the Kashba on Instagram. Awesome
Love
pictures.
it.
That's great.
And he went to Japan and spent 6 months living with the monks and hiking around Japan.
Wow.
So he'll be on the show in October. But
Nice.
so we've learned. I went from knowing nothing about the Pacific Crest Trail other than the movie.
Right.
What's the name of that movie?
Wild.
Yeah,
Wild.
wild.
Yeah, Wild.
That's what everybody knows. Yeah.
And now we know quite a bit about it. So
Which, by the way, Emery just 2 days ago passed over the Bridge of the Gods,
Good.
and he's in Washington, and
Nice.
he's
On the
excited.
last
He's
bit.
excited to have
he's really
less
close
than
to Barack the
500.
Kashba.
He's got less than 500 miles to go. So
Nice. Beautiful.
I think
last
Paul
one.
Barack is a day or two ahead of him.
That's awesome. I'm excited for
I'm
him.
looking forward to that part.
And he's got to go back and do the John Mayer Trail.
Yeah, the Sierras.
Yeah, the Sierras were tough this year. It was not the year to try to through hike the PCT,
Yeah,
that's for sure.
We've just been so sad for the hikers this year because it was such a different experience for them than what we had. We are actually going back to reattempt it next April.
And how long? When did you do it the first time?
Last May.
Last May.
Okay.
We started May 14th. So we were about a month behind what they call the bubble.
Or the herd, they like to call it.
The initial group of people. So we were a little behind.
Mm-hmm.
We are not spring chickens. We were about double the age of the average through hiker.
Mm-hmm.
So we had our own set of issues we had to deal with.
But you got to hike your own hikes. That's what.
That's
they
right.
say.
You
exact-
hike your
that's
own
what they-
hike.
that's what they
and
say.
you know, we made it. We were much more successful than some of the kids. I say kids because they literally were kids hiking. So I guess our experiences and our life experiences and our age did play to our advantage at some point. But unfortunately, due to injury, not the shoulder injury, but foot injuries, we had to peel off the trail early. But we're not going to give up. We're starting over from scratch. We're starting from Mexico again.
Oh wow! So you're not going to start where you left
No.
off.
Nope.
We want to do it in 1 year. That's a through hike, and that's what our goal is.
So, how did you manage taking the time off from? At that time, were you a consultant and the business owner of the laser? battle?
No. So at the time, we had two different, businesses going. We had Family Animal Services of Utah, which was a pet cremation company that we owned, and we sold in March
In Utah.
in Utah. And we had My Cherished Paws, which is a spin-off web-based business that does memorial paw prints for family pets. So we were able to successfully train our daughter, who worked for us back in Utah, to manage the business while we were gone and to take care of My Cherished
So
Paws.
you were living in Utah at the time.
No.
We had just moved here.
Yeah.
We moved back here in 2013. So,
Right.
a long story short, we were basically born and raised here. We were both in the military, which brought us all over the place. We spent time in Florida as a family, moved to Utah to open the cremation business.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Specifically. Left corporate America in 2004 to do the business. And in March of this year, 2017, we sold that business. But it's been a family business of ours. All of our children have worked, almost all of our children have worked for us at some point in time. So we had moved back here in 2013 from Utah with the business still running, commuting back and forth. My mother was ill. So we thought, you know what, life is too short. Let's get back to our family.
Okay.
So that's where we were here, running our business there, going back and forth, and it was at that point that we made the decision to do the Pacific Crest Trail. So I'll let you
Right.
pick up from there.
Yeah, so what we did is we just made sure that we had all our ducks in a row. We had satellite texting and all those things that you need to have when you leave businesses behind.
And you had people in charge here running it for you?
We had our daughter. Our daughter was running the business for us. She's worked for us for several years, so she took over that responsibility and did quite well for herself. We only had a couple little snafus that took us off the trail of no fault of hers. But yeah, so that's how we made it happen. So we just kind of, when you decide that you want to do something as big as a Pacific Crest Trail, and you still have that monthly, what's the best word for that monthly thing that you have to do
It's a
every month to
responsibility.
make your life happen?
It's a responsibility, and it wasn't just for our life. We had employees.
Yeah.
We supported a lot of families.
Yeah, so let's just put it this way. There's no other better way to say it because I'm a sailor. That monthly nut you have to make,
Yep,
right?
yep.
So you've got that monthly thing that you have to make. That didn't stop for us. And that amount of money that is what made our lives go is part of the reason why we're here today. Because we figured out that we really didn't need that. And we figured out after 3 months that there are other things that we could be doing with our time and with our life. But we situated ourselves. Once we had that goal, we were like, we've got to make this happen. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. We got all of our ducks in a row, and we left the business to our daughter and 2 employees, and we went off and did this hike. But there was nothing easy about it, but we really, really wanted to make the hike happen. And I got to tell you, this was not my idea. This was Gina's idea. Gina came to me a year before that, so sometime in 2015, and she said, just like this is typical of what Gina's stuff she says to me. She says, Sean, I want to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. You going? And I'm like, and I did probably what you did. The Pacific Crest Trail, what is that? I'm a California kid. I didn't even know what the Pacific Crest Trail was, right? Well, I did a little research, and I'm like, babe, did you know it's 2,650 miles? And she's like, yeah, I know that. And I said, I'm in.
Wow.
And it was that fast, and it took us a year to plan.
And part of that planning was scaling down your expenses.
Yes.
Is that what I understand?
Yes.
To try to scale down as much as we could. We still had a business with 3 employees. We still had 3 car payments. We still had a house payment. So
Life.
some of the things that we did to try to help with that is our kids came over from Utah and lived in the house for us to help take care of our animals and stuff like that, but we still had the mortgage payment to make. So that piece did not go away. And the reason why that's important to talk about is because once a month, what do you think I was doing? Finding a computer and paying the bills.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that this time. I figured out pretty quickly that was not how to hike your own hike, not have to worry about that stuff. So Gina and I got to there's a lot more to the story, but we got to the point where we needed to make a change. And it did happen for us on the Pacific Crest Trail. That's where the change happened.
So that's when you started thinking about minimalism?
Yes. We didn't know that that's what it was called.
Yeah, we didn't know. We didn't know that there was an actual name for minimalism. And as a matter of fact, Gina's a pro at it right now, honestly. I am the newbie.
He's along for the ride.
I'm along for the ride, but I get it. You know what I mean? And I'm liking what is happening. I feel every day that we're further on in our journey of minimalism, I feel a little bit less on my brain.
It's a
little bit
lightness.
less.
It's a
And you
lightness.
start to feel lighter on your toes. You feel like, man, I just don't feel so bogged down anymore. Is it okay to sit down and have a glass of wine without having my computer in my lap because I have 5 different things going on? And so it's been a process for me of learning, because Gina, when she wants to do something, whether it's a Pacific Crest Trail or whether it's minimalism, she immerses herself in that.
Well, there's definitely a minimalism movement going on right now.
Right.
And just listening to you talk, maybe that movement is a result of the way our society is now. And the pendulum has swung so far on, like we were talking about, constantly being on your phone, emails.
Yeah.
Right now, as I'm talking, I'm thinking about our business. I'm thinking about my daughter has to be
Sure.
picked up at school at 3:30. I'm thinking about
Right.
all these things.
I have a realtor texting me right now.
Yeah. My phone is ringing. in
Mine
the
was
pocket.
ringing a minute ago.
So it did 15, 20 years ago, was not that long ago, and it wasn't that way.
No.
And so maybe this movement is because the pendulum has swung so far, people are rebelling against that.
I
And a little
really
taste
believe
of it.
that. I really believe that to be the case. As far as we're concerned, I have really tried to trace back where the initial thought started. I mean, because that does make a difference. I mean, there had to have been something that triggered it. And I actually believe, before I mentioned to Sean that I wanted to hike the PCT, I think I was just on a cliff. We were so busy. We had 4 businesses going at that time. We were commuting back and forth Utah to Washington. He's traveling. I never see him anymore. We've been married. We just celebrated 19 years.
Congratulations.
I knew what
Thank
that
you.
number was, by the way.
I didn't want to put you on the spot.
I'm on it.
But we, of that 19 years, we're just very driven people. I mean, we'll sit down at night and say, you know, I have a need for something. How do we fix it? And we end up developing a business and launching a business 6 months later. I mean, we are entrepreneurs through and through. But it comes at a cost. And the cost is not something I'm willing to pay anymore. It's just, it's very heavy and it's a big cost.
So let me ask you this, because Ryan and I are very much the same way. We're driven. You give us an idea, like, let's start a podcast. You know, we waited 18 months before we started this thing because we didn't want to do it unless we were going to be successful and do it 100%.
Right.
Right, absolutely,
So
yeah.
do you think that that is helping you with the minimalism? Or not helping you, that's not the right way. Do you think that taking on minimalism as a project is satisfying that part of you?
I do. I'm not going to speak for Sean,
I would agree.
but for me, it definitely is. There's really no end to minimalism. There's really just a light, you know, and everybody's minimalism looks different.
Yeah.
And that's what's neat about it, because we can make it fit us. Where you were talking about getting in that RV and traveling around, well, we're not doing RV. We're not doing car.
So
we're
what are you doing?
We are literally
Backpacks.
backpacking for the next couple years. We hope to, and we're not doing international, we're doing
And
the
are you
United
going to have
States.
possessions outside of your backpack?
A few.
A few that will be in a storage unit.
But no cars?
No cars.
No house?
We're down to 1 car, and hopefully my house will be selling soon. So we really
Yeah,
don't know where we're going to end up as far as where we're going to be after our journey. But our journey
have
is
no
to
idea.
help us define that and what we want to do. But our big goal is we want to travel, and we want to be able to backpack all the national parks in the United States. We realized that stripping life down to nothing but survival, I know that sounds kind of eerie, but when you have a backpack on and you're in the middle of the backcountry, nobody around, and all you're concerned about is survival, you really realize you don't need a whole lot more. And
Have you guys seen the Kindness Diaries on Netflix?
the kindness diaries, huh?
Yeah.
No.
Rich guy, lives in LA, could not take any money, no credit cards.
Yeah.
He had this little motorcycle with the sidecar, and he took it over to, I want to say over to Europe. Actually, he started in the U.S., but he could only rely on the kindness of strangers. And so he was literally
wow.
going
I've
up.
heard of it, yeah.
He was going up. I got goosebumps just thinking about it, because there was a bunch of different episodes, and he would go up to strangers and have to say, "Can I sleep in your house tonight?" And then trust that they're not going to murder him. But he literally only had like one change of clothes.
Yeah.
And he met some of the most amazing
Yeah.
people. And when people showed him extreme amounts of kindness at the end of his day or two with them, he would turn around and whatever need they had, whether it was money or they needed a new house, or he would gift that to them, and they would not know it was coming, obviously, and
Yeah.
they would just, it got so emotional.
Wow.
But
Amazing.
it
That's
was
incredible.
It's really, really cool.
To be able to do
Can you
that.
text him my address? That'd be really nice.
You know,
I'll take him duck hunting.
I would like to offer this up too. So, back to your original question. I've spent years of my life managing projects, making money for other people. We are now going to manage our lives instead. We are going to project manage the rest of our lives. And we are going to be very purposeful about it. And we are going to be, not that we're going to have a schedule, but we're going to be very purposeful about what we're doing financially, with our stuff, with our kids. Because I think if you spend time managing your life like you do for everybody, you guys know how it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go to start up a new business. What do? You go through a startup plan. You go through all the pieces and parts of how you're going to, your finances and those kind of things. How often do we really sit down there and do that with our own lives? How often do we purposefully live the rest of our lives, and it's not just by accident? Many of us, most of us, live our lives by accident. I'm just not willing to do that anymore. I'm not willing to do that anymore because what that has gotten me, yes, it has gotten us some success. But what it's also gotten us is 19 years of marriage. We've known each other since we were in the 7th grade, and I've seen my wife probably less than 50% of the time. To me, that doesn't sound like a very good job of managing your life, not spending time with the people that you love. And also, to your point where, now you're sitting here with us and you're thinking about, gosh, I've got to go do this, 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 and this. I tried to explain our journey to my parents this way. And what I said to them was, because they were having a hard time. Our parents, let's just face it, they had a little bit of a hard time. They couldn't understand it. They're like, you just moved to Washington. I thought you weren't going to leave us. And I said, Mom and Dad, here's the deal. And this is really how I laid it down to them. I said, wouldn't you rather, instead of me being here and not being present, wouldn't you rather when I am here, I'm 100% present in the conversation currently going on? Not worrying about my watch, not worrying about my phone, not worrying about my iPad, not
That
worrying about this. But when I'm looking at you and we're having a conversation, I'm actually looking at you and I'm taking in everything that you say and I'm processing that only. I said, wouldn't that be a better way to spend time with me?
And what did she say?
They're like, yeah, it would.
Well-
and we get it.
And on the show Alone on the History Channel, Cody and I watched that. They get out there, and when you're alone only with your thoughts, you realize how important everything and everyone in your life really is. And we just watched an episode last night with my little boy, and these two guys, they really wanted to be there, but he said, I don't want to miss my daughter's birthday, and when I go home, I'm going to be a better husband.
Don't be a spoiler alert.
You're probably ahead of me.
Okay.
It wasn't the most recent episode.
Was he going to tell you the end of The Bachelor? Because I can tell you what the end was.
What's The Bachelor?
I don't
No,
watch that.
Yeah,
he
no
does
kidding.
not
I'm just
watch
kidding,
The
right?
Bachelor.
But
No.
to piggyback on your point there, we go to North Dakota. Not so much now that I have a 5-year-old, but we used to go every year and go pheasant hunting. And I love those really remote farm towns.
Yeah.
Because it's a time machine, and going there and coming back, like if you go into a restaurant now by yourself and you just sit there and listen, it's just people talking at each other. They're not listening to each other.
No.
But you go to North Dakota or Ryan and I were just in Unity, Oregon, and people sit there and talk to each other and have a conversation. So the previous generation, like your parents, that was everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't have things buzzing at them and
The distractions,
some
yeah.
distractions, so they could actually sit there and enjoy a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so the past couple of years, I made that a focus of mine. Is when I'm talking to somebody to really sit down and talk to them. And just doing this podcast, it's a struggle. I'll listen back to a podcast and I'll go, I had no idea they said that. I'll hear things that I didn't hear sitting here having a conversation. And that can't be healthy.
I think it's human nature, but I think it's something that everybody can work on. Communication's been lost. The text, the texting, the emailing, the social media, literally good communication's been lost. And
By us too. I mean,
by
we're
us, yeah.
we're not on a pedestal any different than anybody else, and we're ready to admit that we've got a problem, and we have to fix the rest of our lives. Otherwise, who knows? It could be tomorrow. I could be mowing the lawn tomorrow and drop dead. Is that how I want to go out? By not. It's weird because I'm almost in fast forward. I can't get stuff done fast enough because I want to go experience stuff with Gina because we've not done those things that we want to do yet, and now I'm almost frantic about it. I'm almost frantic about I want to get out there. I don't want to miss another ounce of time. House hasn't sold yet. Crud. Got to take another consulting gig to help pay for that and put money in the bank. It's like, gosh darn it, we were supposed to be gone by now. So for me, it's this frantic thing that I can't quite get to. I know it's coming, but I'm impatient when it comes to that.
And I'm like, just breathe.
And
just
I have a hard
breathe.
time with that. Luckily, we're a good yin and yang. We've been business partners working with each other since, over 19 years now. We're lucky that way. We love to be with one another. I want to be with her more. And I want to be with her while I can be, and while I'm healthy, and while I, can still go out and run and do all those great things that I want to do and be healthy and go hike and those things. So for me, it's just this very frantic thing. But I want to say that, Gina and I are better than anybody else right now. We're still caught up in the loop. We're caught up in the mosh. Just like Anthrax says,
There you
right?
go.
Caught up in the mosh.
I almost wore my Anthrax shirt.
You should have. You look like an
should've.
Anthrax guy. That's kind of where we're at. So
Well-
it's just crazy business. Just crazy. The mind's just going for different reasons, though, right?
See,
It's just
our life and our journey is like an onion, and we've been slowly, ever since I felt I was on that cliff in 2015, there had to be a change. There had to be a change. There had to be something better. I didn't know it was called minimalism. I didn't. But looking back on it, I wasn't even hiking 4 weeks on the Pacific Crest Trail, and I said, I think we're going to sell our house when we get home. And he looks at me
I
and
looked
is
at her like she was nuts.
thought I was insane because this is our dream home. This is where we were going to retire.
I'm
This
like,
is
babe,
it."
just give it a couple
This is why
weeks.
you worked your whole life.
That's
Just-
right.
Yeah, the American dream. I'm not so sure that the American dream is defined the same way anymore.
No, I honestly believe the American dream, as it is put out there, is not for us. Is not for us.
Well,
It's for some people.
so I had a similar experience on a much smaller level. About 4 years ago, I was out fishing at a buddy's pond, and I was telling him about how I was going to conquer the world and everything I was doing at work and how hard I was working and all these ideas I had and everything. And he said he was 60 at the time, and he had ran a really successful insurance agency. And he said, that's what I did. I worked my whole life, and I've become really successful, and now I'm partially retired, and I can hunt and fish as much as I want, and I got 2 bad knees, a bad hip, and I'm old. He goes, maybe have you thought about taking more time hunting and fishing and being with your family, doing the things you enjoy, and then working your ass off when you're 60? Because he's like, I can sit behind a computer and work my ass off right now, but do it while you are young and your knees work and you don't have all those physical limitations. And so I am not brave enough to do anything close to what you guys were, but I did make some small adjustments after hearing that.
That is really hard for most Americans to put their minds around.
It's not
just
how we're
to-
programmed. It's
Yeah,
not how we're
programmed.
taught.
We're just not programmed that way. And I love it, though. To me, that sounds amazing. Why would you spend your twilight years when you're not healthy trying to travel and do all those type of things when, especially if you're in the kind of business we're in, you guys are the mortgage guys, right? I can consult until I flop over if I want to and work on a computer just if I have bad knees, bad hips, whatever the case may be. So one of the things that we're doing over the next 2 years is, yes, we are ramping our lifestyle down. We're ramping our monthly nut, as it were, down to about 25% of what it currently is. And most people, if I was to tell you what those numbers look like, you would be like, you're going to do what? That's what we're going to do.
So can I ask you what your monthly budget's going to be as a minimalist? Do you
Our
have
monthly budget is going to be somewhere between, with our travel and stuff included, it's going to be somewhere around $2,000 to $2,500 a month
For two people
for
to
two
live.
people to live. How we're going to do this is we have money set aside to help pay for the next 2 years, including the sale of our business and things like that. And if we come to the end of the month and we don't have any money, one of two things is going to occur. Either we're going to go hungry or we're going to pick up a job in whatever town we currently happen to be in, and we're going to go old school.
Well, that's Emerson. He said that. He goes, because I said, well, what are you going to do for money? And he's 41, I think. And
Good
he's
for
like,
him.
I'll just, if I end up somewhere, I'll just pick up a job bouncing at a bar or doing
right.
whatever and work for a couple months. And when I get sick of those people, I'll leave.
That, to me, if you look at an experience like that, and you meet some fantastic people out there, one of the reasons why we want to focus on the U.S. is because we've traveled a lot. I've moved 20 times in my lifetime. My dad was a merchant marine. We're in the military. Gina and I started living and traveling and moving together. So 20 times I've moved. I can pretty much pick up and drop in anywhere and make do, right? But I want to experience some of that. I want to experience the kid that's back there in the kitchen washing dishes, bitching and complaining because he's washing dishes at a restaurant, right? And because they're going to look at me and go, what is that cat's story, Of course, when you have a backpack on, you've been backpacking for 9 days, you look like everybody else at that point. Actually, even worse. But
We smell worse.
so when that 2 year period is over, or whatever it happens to be, I've only said 2 years just because you have to kind of set some boundaries, right? Especially when it comes to finances and things like that. We may decide when we come back that, you know what, yeah, I'm going to go do some more consulting. I'm going to go do those kind of things. Maybe I want a house again. Maybe I don't. I can honestly tell you guys right now that we don't know, and I love that.
Yeah.
I love the mystery of saying, you know what, we are going to go be together wherever it is, whatever it happens to be, and we're going to pop out just fine on the other side, and guess what, we're going to be better people for it.
It sounds like you'll be reacting to life in a different way. Right now, you're reacting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're reacting to how life is to us.
Yeah.
We're going to be driving it, and as things pop up that we have no idea. At least right now, I know I'm going to go to work, every day, and I know that at 10 a.m. I'm going to unlock that front door. But when you're experiencing life by foot, now there's some things we have some guidelines.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to happen. We might be caught in the middle of a snowstorm. We might be on the East Coast. There might be a hurricane rolling in. Those kind of things. Those are pieces of your survival, and we'll make the choices and decisions we need to at that point in time. One of the things that we are working on the backside, not just picking up, restaurant jobs or
right.
whatever, is we are looking at being a part of the house sitting community.
Oh,
So
yeah.
housesitters.com. So maybe we're down in Key West doing some Florida trails down there, and we want to stay there a little while longer, and it's not affordable. Pick up a house sitting job or a pet sitting job for a week or two or a month or whatever. So we're getting ourselves prepared to be more flexible if that's
Right.
the case.
What about health insurance?
Well, of
Both
that
military.
$2,100 to $2,500 a month, health insurance is
Is a
about
big piece of
$500
that.
or $600 a month of that. I mean, that's one of those things that I don't know where that's all going to end up, and we could probably get in a political pissing match over all that. We're not
Yeah.
going to do that because it doesn't do any good. But those are one of those expenses that we really can't afford not to have. If something catastrophic were to occur, as you guys know, you could financially be wiped out very easily. Now, we're not going to be stupid about this either,
Do
right?
you have any insurance through the military?
Gina's working on her disability through the military right now. I don't. I was honorably discharged with no issues, but I was only in 6 years. I didn't put in 20. Gina has some things that she is going to get some disabilities for and things like that, so that's going to help. But really, the bulk of our budget is how much money do we need to eat on a monthly basis, and how much money do we need to get around.
Yeah.
We're going to hitchhike and use public transportation as much as we can. We are going to go out on Craigslist if somebody's going the direction we need to go. If it's, it could be one of those things where we're in wherever, no, let's just say it's North Carolina and the kids need us in Dallas for something. Hey, Mom and Dad, we'd really like for you to come out here because we're in a hard spot with the kids. Can you come out for 2 weeks? Guess what the answer is going to be? Hell yes.
Yeah.
We just need to get there. Give us a few days, right?
Or
it's gonna-
if
it's
you
go-
want us there this weekend, you need to send us some airline tickets.
Yeah, because Mom and Dad can't afford it anymore.
No, Mom and Dad have our restrictions are this.
restrictions.
It's either Greyhound, Amtrak, or hitchhiking.
Yep.
Now, in metropolitan areas, when we were on the PCT, we did use Uber or Lyft, if we needed to get across town to an REI to fix our,
Well,
That
that's-
won't-
it's
it won't be in our
expensive,
budget.
yeah, it won't be in our budget. We just can't do it.
Believe me, I'd
So-
love to call up Uber every time I needed them, but it gets
Well,
expensive.
They're doing, I know it was a test in Las Vegas. I think they're rolling it out to other cities where you pay $10 for like a week-long membership to Uber, and then all your rides are $3.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, they're rolling out some different things, but
And they have the Uber, what's the cheap Uber where you share rides with people?
yeah, there's
Uber
you're
Share,
right,
yeah,
Uber
it is.
Share or whatever it's called. So back to my point about we're not going to be stupid about this either. I mean, we're not going to give away every dime that we own, right? So we're going to still have our retirement, and we're still going to have our funds that come in from our business sale, and we're going to have those things that are going to occur, and we'll have credit cards with plenty of space on them in case something happens. But we are going to try very, very hard to live to that budget, and it's going to have to be earth-shattering, like medical, for us not to be able to do that. And I really wanted to force ourselves to do that. I know it can be done. My mind is not tuned that way yet,
It's getting there.
but it's getting there. Slowly but surely, it's getting there. So the sale of our house is going to be a big part of that. So once the house is gone, that'll be a big part of that. Once we sell the remainder of our stuff, I mean, who has a garage sale and sells $7,000? Come on, guys, really?
Our first garage
We had
sale.
a 3-day garage sale. We sold $7,000 worth of stuff.
Do you hunt or fish?
I used to. I still have.
We'll be doing more of it in the future.
We'll be doing more of it in the future. We have rods that we've never used.
When's your garage sale?
You're not getting that stuff.
Actually, we have an estate sale coming up.
Yeah, we do have one. So we're still in the process of doing that, but I don't know anybody that sells that kind of stuff in 3 days.
Yeah.
But and I got to tell you, man, I was scared at first. Honestly, I was scared. I'm like, Gina, this is crazy. We have a bunch of strangers at our house. I don't want people here at our house. I don't want them here. She's like, Sean, it's cool. It's going to be fine. And you know what? It was a pretty cleansing experience. I don't miss that stuff.
Was it
don't.
emotional though, like going through?
The beginning, it was.
It was. It was.
It was. I have I do keep a blog going on Facebook of this process. I'm actually writing a book about this.
Nice.
I'm hoping that by the time we're at the other end of this conversation, 2 years down the road, whatever, I want to be able to show other people that there's a way to live more by not having so much stuff.
So you brought up two things I've been wanting to talk about as we're sitting here talking to each other. You don't have to go extreme, right?
No.
You can do little minimalist. And I
Yep.
watched a show on Netflix. I think it was called Minimalism.
Oh, I love the minimalist.com.
Yeah, and
They're awesome.
If it's the same one that you're talking about, there was people that didn't go as
Right.
crazy as you guys are.
Mm-hmm.
There was one gal that went viral online with the
33 day,
33
three outfits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So her closet, she said she limited herself to 30 items.
33 items,
30.
including accessories.
Yeah. So like your wedding ring, that count, and then your
It
shoes
does.
and your belt. And you probably know better than me, but she came down to like 3 outfits for work, and she went 30 days and nobody noticed
Nobody
that she
noticed.
wore only 3 outfits.
Nope.
And so then it started this. She put it on the internet and it went crazy and started a movement of
Huge.
people.
It is a huge movement for both men and women. But I think the typically, I hate to say it sounds kind of sexist. Women typically
Go
have
ahead,
women typically have a larger wardrobe than men,
Yeah.
and they're maybe even a little more concerned about having somebody notice that they're wearing the same thing.
So my wife and I are the opposite there, but my wife can't let go of anything. So like our garage is so full. We're working on the trying to get rid of
Are
things.
you okay with letting go of things?
It's tough for me too.
Is it?
It's
Is it
har-
emotional
It's
for you?
harder. It's more emotional for her. Me, I'm like, oh, I can use this again. I haven't used it in 10 years, but like this fishing pole, I am definitely going to use this sometime in the next decade. So why would I sell it now if I'm going to have to go out and buy
Right.
it again?
In
Yeah.
case I need it.
Everything's in case I need
I'm
it.
sorry, but those are the worst words in our English language because that has such a cost. It has a cost emotionally. It has, as we were getting ready to get rid of our stuff at the garage sale, I'm going to go back to that because it has to do with what you just said. There's a lot of emotions put into your purchases.
Yeah,
Okay?
well, yeah, it's your hard-earned
It's your
money.
hard-earned money. And let's say I had a Camaro ZL1.
Nice.
It was my dream car.
What year?
2013. Ordered it direct from the factory. I waited 9 months to get it. And that was my it had its own Facebook page. Okay?
The Black
It was called the
Mamba.
Black Mamba. And I didn't have an issue selling it.
I did.
But he only had day passes to use it, so it wasn't.
But my issue was I had an issue for you. It wasn't for me. It was your dream car. You'd waited your whole life to have that vehicle.
Yep.
And then she's looking at me and saying, I don't need it anymore. And for me, it was like, oh, this gal's serious. Damn.
Now I will say the part that was hard was the thought of the money that I had spent to acquire that dream car. At the time I spent it, granted it wasn't easy to spend it, but it's what I wanted and I felt I deserved it. We had worked hard, I had saved, I deserved it.
It was a reward.
It was a reward. But you know what? What I got from it was it cost me a lot. It cost me not the money only. It cost me time to care for it. Worrying about the fact I hadn't driven it in a year. It was in my garage covered up. So,
Yeah, and everybody's got their thing. But one of the things that we figured out was maybe I don't use that thing every day, but part of my brain maintains that thing every second of every day. Maybe it's a fleeting thought. Maybe it's oh, geez, I need to go wash that thing. Or maybe it's God, you know what, I haven't checked that in a while. Or, geez, I really need to go use that. One of the things that I found is that if you can get rid of some of those things, your mind is less worried about maintaining them.
It's a weight lifted.
It's a weight lifted because you're not thinking about every little thing that you have to maintain. So it's not always money. It's time. And time is one of those things we're never going to get back. I posted something for Gina on Facebook the other day, and it was a Justin Timberlake movie, and it was called Out of Time or something like that. Anyway, he had the digital clock. They all had digital clocks in their arm, and it was counting down to 0.
And that's when they die.
and that's,
And that's when they die, no matter what age they are. And the only way to get more time was to get more money to buy time. But nobody had money. Only the rich people did. So everybody was cutting each other's throat to get more time. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be interesting if every one of us had a countdown clock on our wrist? And my question to people on Facebook was, how would you live your life differently if you saw that the seconds were clicking away? Would you change how you live your life? Would you do something different right now? I think most of us would say yes, but we don't have it in the face like that.
Yeah, I was gonna comment earlier. Something that you said brought me to people that generally make these extreme changes. Normally, it takes some type of a life-altering event
Right.
to make it happen. And so, like for me, I have a health issue, and 10 years ago, after my surgeries, when I couldn't get out of bed every morning and go to work, that's when I realized, what truly was most important to me. So going and making the most money and getting to President's Club and doing all these things wasn't what I was going to strive for. It was, I'm gonna work to make enough money for my family, but I'm going to try to enjoy my family and myself with the other time that I do have.
Yeah.
So
Relationships is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Relationships.
Those are those life-changing events. Gina and I, our families are not cancer-free, unfortunately. Gina was a cancer survivor when she was in her 20s. My dad survived cancer when he was in his 60s. Her mother is battling lung cancer and the complications with that. I lost my brother when he was 42 to cancer. And you go through those when you have those life-changing events. It changes you.
yeah.
It may not change you today. It may not change you tomorrow. I think it's taken me this long to finally figure it out. And my brother died 9 years ago, right? My dad survived, but my brother died 9 years ago. And I think it's just everybody's on their own time schedule, right? So although at the time I said to myself, I'm going to change my life, what I found myself doing was ramping my life up, ramping our lives up, ramping our businesses up, and getting on the other end of the extreme. And so now it's just finally, with Gina's help and with the PCT hike, was what really was the other life-changing event for us. I'm now to the point now where it's like, okay, I get it. I get what people are saying. I'm finally there. I guess I'm finally mature enough to realize that it's going to end someday.
Mike Leach wrote a book, maybe a little less than 10 years ago, called Geronimo. And it was obviously about Geronimo, but the book starts off talking about it's a good day to die, right? And the Apaches would say that all the time, it's a good day to die. And then you see it in movies, like today's a good day to die. But that's not the meaning of it. The meaning is they feel that everything is taken care of, and their life is in control, and they could die today peacefully if they died.
Yeah.
And maybe that kind of summarizes up what you're saying. And how many people are caught in the rat race like we've been talking about, where fear of dying or is so strong because they're not at a peaceful place in their life, because nothing is buttoned up. Everything is out of control. Everything needs their attention. So.
Yeah, I mean, for us, Gina's had to go through this. She knows what it's like to not be healthy. I've been fortunate. I've not had any of those things. I've just had family members that have to deal with that. So it's not necessarily that it happened to me. I've had to live through other people's experiences, but I need to be in a place, and Gina and I need to be in a place where we're just that. We are content with our lives. I can honestly say that I have not been content with my life yet, and I'm 52 years old. That sounds like a problem, and it's a problem that I've created. I can't blame anybody else. I'm not one of those type of people that blames other people. It is what it is. We've made our lives. Now, that's not to mean we haven't been successful. That's not to mean we haven't been happy.
Right.
But content, saying that if I was to drop dead tomorrow, everything would be cool. Gina, well, you wouldn't be cool, I would hope. But anyway, that I could leave some sort of legacy to my family and go off and become ashes and be cool, right? I'm not there yet. I'm getting there. That's where I want to be.
There's a lot of pieces that there's basically 5 pieces that we're focusing on our lives, and the first and the foremost is health. If you don't have your health, You really don't have anything. How many people work their whole lives, retire at 67, 68 years old, go out and mow the yard? Like, well, we had a friend that happened to.
That
He
happened
was
to
out
him.
mowing his yard and
That was it.
dropped dead of a heart attack, and he was only
42.
years old. So you don't know. So being the healthiest person that you can be, that doesn't mean you're going to be, free of everything. I'm just saying to be the healthiest person you can be. Make it a focus in your life. That's one. Relationships. There's nothing more important than the relation. And there's also bad relationships. Get rid of them. It's not worth it.
We are downsizing bad relationships.
We have done that. You
Amen.
making a conscious decision that the time spent trying to foster that relationship that's going nowhere, or it's one-sided. There's all kinds of bad relationships. And unfortunately, there are some people who are in bad relationships, marriages, and they need to, that's a step. Cultivating our passions. What are we passionate about? I mean,
That's number 3, right?
yeah, has somebody asked you lately, what are you passionate about? What would you say?
Only when I'm at a industry seminar where they're trying to get me more passionate about my job.
Okay, but seriously, everybody normally would sit down with a new person and say, hey, what do you do? What would you say? I'm in the mortgage business. and-
Yeah, somebody asked me yesterday in front of a group of people because they were trying to test me on this. And so I said, I help people finance their homes in a smart way.
Okay.
Nice.
Right? But that's a well-rehearsed answer.
Of course, yeah.
But if you were to ask me, what I'm most excited about right now is on September 9th, Early Goose opens.
Yes.
And we've been working on our goose blind and preparing the property and doing all that.
I
And,
love it.
I am passionate about my job. We've worked very hard to be where we're at, and we have very large goals, and it does represent all my hard work. I can sit back and look at everyone I've impacted. I can look at my family and know that everyone's secure. But I think Ryan and I have, the show's called The Hunt for Success, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but having my friend tell me that when we were fishing, did impact some decisions my wife and I made. And Ryan, I think, is very similar, where we're in our mid-30s, and so we're seeing all of our colleagues and friends achieve that point in their life where they're starting to see some financial success and the bigger houses and the bigger car payments and all this. And we look at our house, which is not small. We have a nice house, but it's not 4,000 square feet. And we have no desire to do what some of our friends are doing. And that may bring them happiness, and that's their business. But for me,
That's fine, yeah.
2,000 square feet is a nice house. I wouldn't want any more to manage. I wouldn't want any bigger of a payment. So I think there's lots of different levels of minimalism.
Absolutely, yeah.
And just watching that documentary and talking to my friend Emerson and talking to you today, if you can keep control of that, that does affect your passions and your happiness, right?
Well, and being able to continue to grow as a person.
Yeah.
Just if you're so consumed about always making that next big paycheck or that next big bonus or all that, you're missing that's not necessarily growing you as a person. It might be growing, what does my coffee cup say there?
I was waiting to do it. Jobs fill your pocket, adventures fill your soul.
Yep.
So
Amen.
how many times have you heard you can't take it with you?
Yeah.
That really is the basis of everything. You really can't take it with you. So I don't want to have to worry about wanting more. We literally, this is a long process, but one of the things we were looking at doing was moving, our children just moved with all of our grandchildren. We have 5 grandchildren. We have 5 kids combined. My son and his wife and 2 kids, he's in the military, he lives in Dallas. My daughter, who was living in our home while we were on the PCT, her husband and 3 kids just moved to Dallas. So now 2 of our children and all of our grandchildren are in Dallas, Texas. And we were thinking, maybe we'll just go buy a house and go move to Texas. Really, that would be like really kind of cool to have all of our kids in one place again, all of our grandkids. So we started looking at houses. That was a joke. We're downsizing. Okay, so we start looking at
Oh my gosh.
2,000 square foot house. no, it's not big enough. We don't have any room for our stuff.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, we're looking at 3,500 square foot homes.
To have room for our
to
stuff.
have room for our stuff. And that was it.
Need a 3-car garage. We had 3 cars.
We looked at each other and said, this is ridiculous.
Well, just like what you said, the I need, right?
Yes.
Like in that documentary, it starts out, one of the stories is the guy says, okay,
Yes.
I'm just going to get a small studio apartment.
Yeah.
And then I need to go to IKEA and buy this furniture, and then I need this frame, then I need this place to
Oh,
put
and I
my
have to
USB.
have that leather chair.
Yeah.
I need that leather chair. That is literally, we looked at each other, we said, we're done. We are not doing this. We are not looking at a bigger house. One, we don't want a bigger house. I have a 3,200 square foot home that when he's traveling all the time, I'm the only one there. I wander around. I have 4 bathrooms.
You got like 2 rooms that you go in, the
Yep.
kitchen and your bedroom.
Kitchen and
pretty
the
much.
bedroom. That's what they say,
Exactly.
right? 70% of the time, I think, is what they say.
So
That's
I started filling it up with pets. So I had 5 dogs at one time and 2 cats because it was just so much empty space,
Yeah.
you know, and we have a beautiful home. We got beautiful belongings and furnishings that we've collected over the years.
Now they're all over Clark County.
Yeah, we have spread them out all over Clark County after our garage sale.
Yeah.
But that was a really defining moment when we started looking at houses and we're like, that's not what we want to do. We don't want a bigger house. We don't want to, no, we're done. That's when we said, what could we do instead that would really fulfill us? We both want to continue to go to school, you know? Not that we need another degree or need another job. We just want to go to school. I want to spend time writing.
Sure.
I want to cultivate that passion. And we have, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've done a lot of philanthropic work. When we hiked the PCT last year, we raised money for Autism Speaks. We figured if we're going to take the time to do this, why not raise some money for a really good cause?
We actually we have a son that's autistic. He's 26 now, and he's part of my crew. I have 2 kids over in Pennsylvania, but Justin's 26. We've known he's been autistic since he was about 2. So, we wanted to try to give back a little bit, while we were hiking. So we gave back some. We'll do it again this next time around and try to do things to better those kids' lives.
But to be able to give back and help build a better place, wherever it might be. It might be in Dallas. It could be in Florida. It could be, who knows where we're going to be. But to be able to contribute and give a piece of yourself back is really important.
So let me talk about that for a second. So when my friend Emerson, I walked in the bar and he told me, here's what I'm doing. I've been planning it for a while, I just haven't told anybody. And I said, so I sat and thought about what he was doing, the minimalist thing, and I said, all right, one of two things are gonna happen. You're either gonna come back a bum, or you're gonna end up under an underpass somewhere, overpass, or on the road at some point, you're going to have this breakthrough genius idea and you're going to become a millionaire. Because I knew this guy really well, and I go, one of those 2 things are going to happen. I don't see him just being level the whole time. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you is how you're going to make money from the road. I think we talked about that a little bit, but it almost sounds like an idea like the Autism Speaks or a charity. Do you think is that one of your goals, is coming up with some more ideas, or having, when your brain is only thinking about that day, right, and surviving, it doesn't sound like you might come up with a great business idea that could take you back to where you were, right?
Yeah.
Like, what a great business idea. I should start doing X, Y, Z, and before you know it, you're back into the rat race. So do you see maybe charities and fundraising being...
I'll speak for myself because I'm done working. I'm 51. I know that's probably a lot of people would say. I always said from a very young age, I'll never retire. I'm just going to quit working. When I'm ready to quit working, I'm going to quit working. And I'm there. So what we have been doing over the last few years, yes, Autism Speaks was one of the charities, but we also had a mobile food business. And instead of going around and just making money at all these events, we went around and we donated 20% of our gross proceeds. No matter what we made, 20% of it was given to the nonprofit that brought us in, because there's a lot of schools, a lot of church groups, there's a lot of youth groups that really need help.
Relay for Life,
all these wonderful charities. And so I foresee myself spending a majority of my life between writing, spending time with my grandkids, because that's giving back right there. We've got 5 grandchildren from 11 to 6 months old, 7 months old, that could really use some really cool grandparent time.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than giving back to another
And their
generation.
parents could probably use their kids to have some
Yes.
really good grandparent time.
We've been very fortunate. We are very close with our grandchildren, and we haven't always lived just down the street from them, but we make an effort to make it a point of being great grandparents. And it's not always about money, but that does come into play at times.
Absolutely.
But it's about being there and spending time. And I've flown to Utah to watch a dance recital because it was important. It was the final dance recital and things like that. So I see myself, besides writing my book, helping others maybe enjoy life a little bit more, we want to focus on showing our grandchildren that it's not all about the iPads and the iPhones
Yeah.
and the Nikes or we want them to experience life and enjoy experiences with us. And so that's one of the big things in our future is Christmases are going to look a little different around our house. You know,
sure.
trying to explain to people, please don't buy us gifts. We don't want gifts anymore. We want experiences. Or bake me my favorite kuchen.
That's all.
That's all
sounds
I
good to
want.
me.
I don't need a gift. I don't need something that's going to sit in a closet or sit on a shelf that I'm not going to use. It doesn't bring value to me. I want to show my grandchildren that just going on a backpacking trip or just going camping or hunting and fishing and teaching them the things that we grew up learning.
Keep going. I'll be right back.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we did. I mean, we went hunting and fishing. We played with our G.I. Joes out in the forest and stuff. And, you know, it wasn't about having the most expensive thing all the time because most of us couldn't afford it anyway. But
We didn't grow up.
Yes,
I'm not
it-
going to say we didn't grow up privileged. I think I was extremely privileged. I never had to worry about.
Yeah, you didn't have to want for
I didn't have to
anything.
want.
Yeah.
no.
And we didn't really. I mean, there were, you know, you wanted that new bike or something like that, but we didn't have a silver spoon in our mouths by no means.
Yeah.
We lived modest lifestyles with blue collar families. Both of us did. But our grandchildren, this generation coming up to behind us here, they look at life a lot differently, and they don't look at the value of life. They look at the cost of an iPhone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what better way to teach them good values than to show them and model for them? You don't have to have the best of everything. You know, the most expensive, the newest, the greatest. So, like I said, Christmases and birthdays are starting to look a little bit different. We're bringing in more experience-based gifts. One of our grandson is like, you know what? For your birthday, what do you want to do? We're going to go to the movies, or we're going to go spend the day together. How do you want to spend the day with Grandma and Grandpa? Just you.
Our first guest, Doug Mendenhall, he wrote a book called Spark, and he talks about how
The
he wanted to know why kids lost their spark, and their spark was their confidence. Mm-hmm. And
It was a
hearing
great podcast, by the way. I loved it.
Doug's a stud.
Doug's awesome.
Yeah.
Super.
He's a
super.
stud.
He needs to start his own podcast.
Yeah, he does.
And but what you're talking about on, you know, you don't have to have the best of everything for your kids, because you go to third world countries and these kids are super happy, and they have, not only do they have nothing, but they have disease and
Yeah. Maybe not have a roof over their heads.
Yeah.
Running water. No.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, running water.
So I mean, that's something I'm constantly worried about. You know, are we spoiling our kid? Because I want to give my daughter everything. You know, we were at the hunting store, Sportsman's, and I could just tell she wanted something, so I just let her pick out whatever she wants. And I wonder, like, yes, that makes me happy, makes her happy, but at some point she's going to have to learn that she doesn't always get everything she wants.
And that's a really hard life lesson, I think. And we did the same with our kids. We tried so hard to give them everything that they wanted. I mean, I wouldn't say our kids were spoiled, but we were fortunate. We had a good life. We made a good life for ourselves, and our children got those things, you know. But our kids are also in their 30s now. Youngest is
They're
Lauren
your
is
age.
20. Yeah, they're your age. I mean, we could be your parents.
You'd be lucky.
And I'd be talking about having experiences now and no longer giving you those gifts.
You know, I want to get back to one of the things that you said. Here's what's going to happen to Gina and I, right? So we're doing this downsizing and thing. There's two things I want to say. Number one, I told Gina, I said, Gina, this minimalist stuff is not for me. I'm not going to be poor. Then I realized those minimalist dudes, those guys are not poor,
No.
right? But everything in their life adds value. There's a difference, okay? So on that is like, well, what are you guys going to do? I mean, what's the future look for you? I don't know. But there is a good possibility while Gina and I are munching around the United States that we're going to get a wild hair and we're going to think that it's time for us to do something else. That's very possible. I don't know what that looks like. I couldn't even tell you what that looks like, but the possibility of that happening is pretty doggone high, I would think, because that's how we operate.
Well, and it's exciting.
And it's exciting.
Oh,
And
we're
you have-
adrenaline junkies.
When you are walking around and you're simply putting one foot in front of the other, you have nothing but time on your hands. Nothing but time. Oh my God.
So what kind of ideas are you going to have? And
Hey,
I don't know.
you could, and that's what I told Emerson. I mean, you
It's
guys could
unlimited.
come up with some nonprofit that could change the world.
It could.
Yeah.
It could. And
I would
Gina and
love
I-
to. I would love to come up with a cure for cancer, but that's not going to.
You know, Gina and I we're just wired that way. Sounds like you guys might be wired a little bit that way too. You know, it's like you spend a little time together. And I came from a family of entrepreneurs. Everybody was a business owner in my family. I was
Not me.
I was the last one really to do it of the guys in my family anyway. But there's something different about people like us, and I'm not sure what it is.
It's that spark.
It's the spark, and I've always liked to think that I've had that spark,
I
and it's
saw it.
always not always bright. It's not always bright, right?
I noticed
But-
it right away because you guys got here and we left you hanging. You would even answer the door, and they're sitting out in the front room, just sitting there talking.
Yeah.
And I walked up. I'm like, oh man, they're gonna be so pissed.
No, heck no.
And yeah, so
No.
you can already, and I don't know if that's just who you are, if it's because you're starting to get that minimalism, but you can just see the happiness and calm.
That's the way we are.
Well, we've also been self-employed for 19 years, you know, and so I think in order to be self-sufficient that way and be driven that way, you
It
look at
takes-
things a little bit differently.
It takes something special. You know, it's.
Not saying that we're special.
No, we're not saying, but
We're
there's
different.
The people that do the things like we do, yourselves included, are just a little. We're just wired different. It's just all it is. I have never ever. So I could have very easily gotten out of the United States Navy in 1991. I was a nuclear operator. I could have very easily got a job at a nuclear power plant, and I could have very easily sat on shift work for the rest of my life, and I could have made a doggone good living
Got your
doing it.
pension.
Had all that, right? My dad could have done the same thing. He didn't do that. He chose not to go that route. My brother chose not to go that route. I'm just not wired to be that person.
The safe route.
The safe route. It's just not us. It hasn't been. I tried it. I didn't like it. I'm just not wired that way. I like to have a little bit of that. Oh God, what next? Oh geez, how are we going to pay the bills this month?
What's
We've had those times,
What's
right?
around the corner? We love that.
Yeah.
That video about the mountain lion,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
when they're going around that corner, wondering what's around that corner.
Can you pull that up?
Oh,
Is that on YouTube?
Now,
I can look for it.
oh my gosh.
let's be clear. I am not a thrill seeker.
These guys are.
You're never going to see me jump off
They're dingbats.
a mountain with a parachute on my back. I know people that do that. They love it. That's great for them. My thrill is different. My thrill is the excitement of saying, I did that. You see that car that's sitting over there? I paid for that myself.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody paid me a paycheck.
There
I
it
don't
is.
wait for it to happen every 2 weeks. It takes a special kind of person to want to do that. And it takes a special kind of person to want to sit there and film a cougar that would like to eat them.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move over to screen capture.
Well, and
These hikers are coming around the corner here.
Yeah.
we talk. If you're watching if you're listening on iTunes, what did you search? What's this video?
So it's called Hikers Encounter a Mountain Lion. So they see a mountain lion on the trail, and it runs away, and so they start to follow it, and they're gonna come around this corner,
and looking for it.
and
It's like, where's the mountain?
There
Well, there he
it
is.
Oh, Do you have audio to this going?
No, I muted it.
These two guys are talking, and they're like, "What do we do? I don't know what to do. Are we doing the right thing? Do we turn around and run?"
They're definitely
And
not doing
we're
the
like,
right thing.
Past and
This
then
thing is about to pounce on them.
what's going to happen next is not up to those two people.
No,
It's up
no,
to that
and,
kid.
And then the video stops. But
so I showed Sean. I said, "You will never believe this video because hiking the PCT, you really do need to know what to do in that situation." I'm going to regress real quick. Remember I was talking about a mountain lion story about the PCT? I have got to tell you guys this story.
Yeah, shoot.
One of the young people we met, his name was Ezekiel. His trail name was Mad Hatter. He 18 years old.
This is the guy from Argentina.
Argentina,
Yeah.
Buenos Aires.
18.
Just
first
graduated.
time to the U.S.
No.
No?
He'd been to the U.S. He just was here by himself. 'Cause
Oh, okay. First time by himself
yeah.
to the U.S.
And
yeah.
he graduated from high school, and he said it to his parents, "I'm going to hike the PCT." And 3 weeks later, he was hiking the PCT.
3 weeks of planning. We put a year into planning.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 weeks.
Emory-
Typical 18-year-old, right?
Emory put like 2 years in.
Right.
Yeah.
planning.
It takes
Right.
a while to plan appropriately.
So he shows up on the trail. We didn't see him in the beginning. We met him.
We met him at
Mile
105, Warner Springs, is where we ran into
We
him.
did.
Yep.
He had no food left. There was no store nearby or anything, and we had had a package sent to us, and we over planned, and we had all this extra food, and we're like, "What are we gonna do with this food?"
Did I mention Cliff Bars?
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
And so we had this picnic table full of all this food, hiker food, and we had heard that somebody was in desperate need of food, and so we said, "Send him over." Didn't know who he was. This hiker comes over, broken English, and he literally was in tears. We're like, he goes, I'll take this packet of peanut butter.
I'm like, take all 5 of them.
No. Take everything on this table. If you don't take it, we're going to put it in a hiker box. And so that's a box sitting available for people to take
Yeah.
whatever they need out of
Yeah.
it. And so that was the first time we met Ezekiel, Mad Hatter.
Did he take all the food?
He took
He
most
took a
of it.
bunch.
He took most of it. He did. And a couple other people came over and said, "Well, if you don't want that Cliff Bar, I'm going to take it." So we got rid of the stuff that we didn't need. And it made us feel good.
Yeah,
We're
it was
like,
great.
you know, because a lot of these people were on a lot smaller budgets than we were. One of the benefits of being in our 50s, and we had a little more resources than most people did. And so of the whole 1,200 miles that we actually hiked, we probably fed
Half of the trail.
half of the trail. I bet you we fed at least 3 hikers their entire journey
Every time we got a resupply box, we gave half of it away.
Wow.
because we just had too much.
We had too
so,
much. We gotta
Okay, so
resupply
I'm
every
going to
week.
go back to Ezekiel.
Yeah.
And so we didn't
Ezekiel
hike.
and the cougar.
And the cougar. We didn't hike with him, but we kind of ran into him off and on, and he was a lot faster, 18 years old.
Sure.
He practically ran. But he also weighed about 120 pounds, and his pack was about 65 pounds.
Yeah,
He
very
was a
heavy.
hurting unit. So after he would get going in the day, he'd start to slow down, and we'd end up catching up to him. Well, this one night, coming out of Big Bear,
Big Bear, yep.
California. We had one of our fastest mornings. I was cruising. I hiked in the front. The terrain was just right, and I was booking it.
You're doing about 3 miles an hour, which is fast.
And we had
Yeah.
heavy packs on at that point, and
Yeah.
it was a perfect. Everything was perfect. The day was perfect. I felt great. Whatever. And we came to a place where we heard that there would be water. It was
There were horse stalls and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we're like, okay, we're going to go look for this water. And all of a sudden, we hear, "Hey," and somebody's yelling at us. And we're looking, and it's like, it's Ezekiel. He was all by himself on this picnic bench out in the middle of nowhere along this river.
I think he had had his trail name by that point, right? He
did.
got his trail name in the same time I did in Warner Springs. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's Mad
So we
Hatter.
knew it was Mad Hatter. And he looked like, his eyes were so big and round. This is about
And absolutely
8
freaked out.
freaked out. He was kind of shaking.
About
and
8:30, 9 in the
8:30
morning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His sun was really getting hot. And he told us that what had happened the night before. Now, back up about a week, we had run into him, and he was talking about night hiking. And he's hiking by himself. And I'm like, "Ezekiel, please tell me, promise me you won't night hike alone. This is cougar. This is mountain lion
Bear
country,
country, too.
bear country. Please, if you're going to night hike, have people with you. I have glaucoma in one of my eyes. I have a really hard time night hiking, so we don't. Tried to get up real early in the morning, but I can't hike at night. And these guys were hiking at night all the time. Yeah, okay. And I kind of took him under my wing. I was kind of his mother for a while.
Trail mom.
Trail mom, definitely trail mom to a lot of people.
For sure.
So we go over to sit with him on this picnic bench, and he is physically, visibly upset and shaking, nervous. I mean, was having a hard time eating his Cliff Bar. And he tells us the night before he was night hiking. And he's hiking along, and he sings. And the way he got his trail name is he sings the song from Alice in Wonderland. And so that's how he got this mad
It's
hat.
your unbirthday.
Yeah. Is it your birthday today? Oh, it's your unbirthday. And he is
There's
just
a couple people that didn't appreciate it.
yeah. So he's sitting there and he says, so I was night hiking last night just up here on the trail. And as he's hiking along, he comes around the corner, and right in the middle of the trail is a mountain lion laying across the trail. And it scared him. And he didn't know what to do. So he said what he did was he started to walk backwards. She just kind of stood up and kind of looked at him. And he walked quickly backwards until felt he was a far enough distance from her that he could turn around and actually run. Because you don't run. You don't, like those guys, you don't turn around and run from a mountain lion. They will come after you.
Especially a single.
And he's small, and so he just felt that she was following him. So nothing else. He threw his pack off on the trail, set his tent up, no stakes, no nothing, crawled in his tent on the middle of the trail, and put on the back of one of his paper mats, he wrote in his broken English, "Sorry, I'm scared. Mountain lion saw me," and he put it outside his tent with a rock on it. So if anybody came up on him, he said he laid there all night feeling like a human burrito. And he never slept a wink. He was so scared. And he promised me he would never night hike again. And that story, when I saw that video on social media, I was sitting there thinking of Ezekiel the whole time, and I can't wait to give him a call and talk to him. But he told that story many, many, many times, and he was so fortunate. But we learned a lot about some of these animals you see in this conservatory.
Yeah. So did he make it all the way?
Got to somewhere in Oregon.
Ashland. He got to Ashland,
And I
and
think he
the
got
weather
rained
turned.
out.
Yeah, the weather turned, and he did not get to make it the whole way. But he came and stayed with us in our homeless center for several weeks. You asked us if we've been in contact. We have. We keep in touch with a core group of people that we feel are family.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the couples moved from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and they're now living here in Portland.
Home Alone reference.
Yeah.
John Candy
Yeah.
from Sheboygan.
Sheboygan. Yep. And they moved here. They just moved here
I
at
love
Christmas.
Sheboygan. How do you not love the name of that town?
That's awesome.
Sheboygan. But so they've moved here, so now they're friends of ours here. We've kept in contact with Ezekiel. He is going to university right now. He's studying astrophysics.
Something.
He's like
He's
Sheldon
crazy smart.
on The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
He is Sheldon.
We called him Sheldon. We
And he
wanted
didn't
that
like
to be
that.
his trail name. He's like, I don't want people to know
should get him
I'm
on
like
the
that.
show.
Oh, he is so smart. He is just incredibly smart. So he's going to university. We've kept in contact with another couple that met on the trail. One, she's from Germany. No, where's Sandra from? Germany.
Yep.
And her guy friend.
He's living in Florida now.
Yeah, they're all over the place, but we've kept in contact with them. And
it's been great.
we've trail angeled, and you've probably heard that term before. I've gone out to,
haven't.
no?
Yeah.
Trail angels are people who, without any expectation of getting anything in return, help and assist hikers in any way they can.
Gotcha.
So we got off trail early because of injury. I wasn't ready to be done. So I went and sat outside of Cascade Locks, Panther Creek Campground, with a big sign, and I had hot dogs, and I had a lot of beer, and
Hikers love beer,
Yeah.
hikers love beer, fresh
including
fruit.
this one.
Non-hikers like beer too.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So I would sit out there for a day or two and just wait for hikers
That's
to come by. And some of the hikers I literally took home with me to my homeless center and gave them a shower and a bed and Big Red and Bucket two people that we met. They were staying in Cascade Locks for a few days, so I took one of them out to my house, and I had all this extra food that we had, shipped to ourselves. Well, now it's all coming back because we never picked it up at the post offices, right? I opened up these boxes, and they were really running out of money. I mean, I think they had run out of money at that point. And we really wanted them to be successful and make it. So literally, I packed their backpacks for the entire rest of their trip. They did not make it because of the weather turned. But the snow came in. But without any expectation of anything, I just want them to be successful. And so we did some trail angeling, and we had some great trail angels that helped us when we were.
That's about as good as you can give back to hikers, at least.
Feed them. And
Emery gave us some cool stories of that, and it was just like, people picking him up and taking him to their house, and he's like, it was the best. I think it was like a grilled cheese sandwich. He's like, it was the best grilled cheese sandwich I've had my whole life.
We actually got picked up in, was it Wrightwood that we were thumbing a ride?
The botanist?
No. We were going to the doctor's office there at one time.
Oh.
We got picked up by, it didn't matter the city, but
It was Wrightwood.
we got picked up by, had our thumbs out. There were
Granted,
three of us.
you got to remember, it was Mad Hatter and the two of us.
Yeah.
We did not have our backpacks on because
Yeah.
we had left them in a hotel
And we were
room.
clean at that
And we
point.
were clean. Didn't smell bad. And we needed to get to a doctor, the closest doctor. I won't go into it, but we needed to see a general physician. And we took Ezekiel with us because he had blisters on his feet that were so infected. Oh, no. And so we got permission via, what's the system we use to... WhatsApp. That's how he communicated with his parents in Argentina. So we got on this internet with him and asked permission to take him to the doctor because he needed some care.
Yeah.
So we stood out on the side of the road hitchhiking.
So we're thumbing and got passed up by several cars. And this was pretty much a hiking town, right? And then somebody picks us up. And so I asked him, it was a young kid, and I said, hey, that's pretty brave of you picking up three hikers. Like, did you even know we were PCT hikers? And he kind of said, yeah, I kind of figured. I said, well, why'd you pick us up? He goes, I've always wanted to pick up a hitchhiker.
So he picks up three of us, right?
Yeah. So really cool experiences like that.
It was. I mean, and he drove us an hour.
Yeah.
He drove us an hour to this doctor, and then he said, you know what, you guys, I'm going to be in town for a little while. Here's my phone number. Give me a call if you want to ride back up the mountain.
Real generous. Wow.
Just very generous. I mean, any thru hiker can tell you incredible stories. The kindness, go back to the guy, the video, or the Netflix, the kindness of people. I'm going to tell you, it changed our lives. The way people, complete strangers, reached out to us. And that's what I want to give back, some of that we were so fortunate in getting.
So for people that are like your stories and want to follow you, you have a website coming out?
We do. The website, you can read it off of there. It's not up and running yet, but it is coming.
We are living our lives.
We are livingourlives.com. We are on Facebook right now, and it's Living Our Lives Together, because that one was taken. And I do a small blog on there. It talks about the steps that we're taking. We talked about emotional attachment to things. I would like to tell just a really quick story if we have time.
So you can take as long as you want.
Okay. I was going through cupboards and stuff, trying to get ready for this first garage sale, this first round of getting rid of stuff. About a year ago, I guess before we went on the hike, Sean and I were talking on the phone. He was gone on a trip doing his work, and I said, these dishes that we use in our cupboard, we've had them for 10 years or so, and I kind of am tired of them, and I would like to get some new dishes.
And I'm like, really?
I mean, yeah. and we do a lot of entertaining. Let me just preface it that way. So it's not just 8 plates and 8 bowls. It's a set of 36. Okay. In case we have a party. In case we have 36 people over, like you have all the time,
that happens
right?
all the time.
Yeah.
So, and we had spent a lot of money. They were nice. They've lasted all these years, and they've done very well for us. But right in the cupboard right now, there's only 8 of each piece. And down in a storage cabinet, there's the rest of them. Never even been used. But I was tired of them. And he says, well, what do you want instead? And I said, I just want plain white dishes. I I really envision a square plate. I want something different. I want a square plate, but I want them just simple white. And he goes, just go buy them. And I said, well, I did find a set that I like, but a set of 8 place setting was $400. I didn't buy them at that time. And I said, oh, I'll just wait. I kind of felt a little guilty because we had really decent, there was nothing wrong with our dishes. But
we were trying to minimize our stuff.
It was not at that point yet, but it was coming there. So I didn't do anything. So here we are, fast forward 2 years, and I'm getting ready to do this garage sale, and I open up this cupboard, and it's the one that has all the Christmas dishes and all the Christmas cups and glasses, and I start pulling out this stuff, and I'm like, what is that in the back? And it was these boxes, cardboard boxes, never been opened. I pull them out. They were white dishes that I bought. Years.
Score.
Okay, now I can say score now. I literally sat there and cried. Is that how pathetic I am that I bought a complete set of dishes and never even opened them, put them in that closet, and forgot that I had them. Now, the good part of it is, when I started to look at them, there was a little price tag on them. I had actually bought them. In Utah, it was called Deseret Industries. It's
Kind of like a Goodwill kind
It's
of
a
thing.
Goodwill through the church, the Mormon
yeah.
church. I only spent $3 on them. And after I sat there and looked at these dishes that hadn't been used, and I got done crying about how pathetic I was, I remembered buying them. And I remembered us going, oh, we got to get these. Kids will be able to use. One of our kids will be able to use these. Somebody will be able to use these. This is such a good deal.
We always convince ourselves there's a reason.
It's amazing.
And that was really not one other thing that I pull out of that cupboard that I was attached to. By the way, we are using those dishes right now.
I love them,
and
too.
my other dishes are part of my estate sale.
Yeah.
But it was at that moment in time I lost all emotional attachment to our belongings. And I have some things that I would have said in the past, like our dining room table, which is this beautiful set that we bought. Spent way more money than I've ever spent because I thought it was the last dining room set I would ever own.
Well, you're probably right.
It might be.
It might be. You're right. It might be. But we bought the one we wanted, like our dream home. We now have our dream furniture. We have our leather furniture. And I no longer, everybody goes, oh, are you going to sell that? Yep. I am not
Well,
attached to it anymore.
When we brought that table home and Pottery Barn delivered it, so that would give you guys some
Yeah,
idea.
exactly.
I said to Gina, I was sitting in the chair, and I was like, babe, see this chair I'm sitting in? This is a chair I'm dying in.
And that's exactly what he said. I said, yep, you'll probably sit there and drool
so
on yourself.
a friend of mine said to me last week, he said, but Sean, he says, you guys, this was it for you. I said, you know what? Things change. And I've changed. And Gina has changed.
The PCT changed us for life.
The PCT changed our lives.
It did.
I think the coolest thing that I've been thinking about, as we've been talking, is your experiences on the PCT and the people you've met. But I think what's going to be the coolest is all the people that you're going to meet over the next few years and the impact that maybe not only that they'll have on your lives, but that you're going to have on their lives. I think that's going to be the coolest part of the whole story.
Well, and if you have a way for people to follow your story,
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you that you've impacted me today.
Absolutely.
Right? And the decisions I'll make. And so it's not just the people you're going to encounter, and that's what I am so bummed about Emerson is he does Facebook, but he's not doing a blog or a podcast or
Yeah.
anything. But being able to share your story in this kind of format,
Yeah.
and as you go further down your journey, I think will be really important. Just like the Netflix specials probably impact you,
Oh,
and so
yes.
be
Oh, yeah.
able to share that story, or share your journey with people that aren't going to be the minimalist to where your level is, but they can at least analyze where they're at in life.
I think it's just looking at how to really truly live your life. And I know that's really hard for a lot of people to understand because they're like, well, I live my life. Your life drives you,
Yeah.
your job drives you. And I know everybody has to make money. But minimalism, if you look at The Minimalist from Netflix, one of the biggest things that hit me was when they were talking about minimalism. If you can be happy truly happy with what you have right here and now, and not have to want something else. Doesn't matter how much money you have. If you have your basic needs met, you make the best of what you have right now, and just be content with that. Be content with being the best person that you can be. Get rid of all that extra stuff, the furniture, in our case, the furniture, the house, the cars, all the businesses. I mean, literally all of our businesses will be gone. We won't have any businesses. We won't have any outside responsibilities other than to ourselves and our families. But being happy and content, truly content with what you have, and not always try to get something more. You can be very, very poor, like we were talking about. People in third world countries, they have nothing. They don't even have their
But they're content.
But they're content and happy.
Yeah.
So just to have a little piece of that in our lives is really important. And the other thing is, I want to say, our financial advisor would probably say, he has said this, if you want to maintain your lifestyle the way it is now, you're going to have to work another 10 years, 12 years, 15 years.
That did not sound appealing to me at all.
I'm like, okay, so what if we change our lifestyle and our desires? Well, then you can do this now. That's a very powerful thing. And so, do I want to continue to work the next 15 years just to pay for stuff that are in cabinets I don't even know I have? No. I want to live life. I don't want to have to want. Just be happy with what I have, content. So that's where we're going, and where it ends, we don't know.
So you're selling your house
Yep.
right as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So do you have a ETA or ETD? Estimated
Departure?
time of departure?
Our ETD, I was supposed to be gone. I say I because Sean did take on this. It was a small consulting job in North Carolina that was supposed to go through August originally, and so I wanted to be out of here the 1st of August. Things didn't go as planned, so you kind of punt. House hasn't sold. But that hasn't stopped us from moving forward. I mean, we're still selling everything, and we're down to one vehicle. That's really a challenge for us.
That is a challenge in the center.
In La
To
Center.
have one vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're attached at the hip. When he's in town, he's with me or I'm with him because we have one car. So the ETA was originally August 1st. Really what's driving it is the sale of our house. So his job he did agree, comes home and he says, what do you think about if they want to extend this contract until December, till the end of the year? I'm like, well, that's okay, because when the house does sell,
You can just go out and
I'm
meet
just
him.
going to go hang out in North Carolina
She can
with
go
him.
wherever she wants.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I can do
Yeah.
whatever. And our initial plan is the first step is getting on an Amtrak train and going coast to coast. That's how we're starting this.
And we don't even know what city we're necessarily going to end up in. I might just say, God, this is kind of a cool town. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that excitement. I want to just jump off somewhere and just say, here we go, and start the journey. And I think, to me, that seems very exciting.
It is, and people are like, well, why don't you get an RV? And why don't you? We're like, we've been traveling at 80 miles an hour and at 35,000 feet our whole lives. I want my feet on the ground. I want to see that. Well, we experienced it going into this little town and going into a little store
Right.
that has rocking chairs on the front porch.
And having discussions like you were talking about, in that small town, that those people are they're really present in the conversation.
And you probably made their week.
they come up.
Or they
oh,
made ours. I mean, some of the conversations we had was, to your point, Ryan, some of the conversations you have with these people, they impact you. They don't realize they're doing it. And we don't realize we're doing it for them. But it's a simple face-to-face conversation.
Yeah.
There's
with
something
other human beings.
beautiful about that.
Yeah. There was one other little story, is the first real trail magic that we had was at Lake Morena.
Yeah.
Where's that at?
It's 20 miles.
20 miles in.
20 miles
20
from
miles
the
from the
Mexican border in California.
Our first town, sort of, kind of.
It's a campground.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people from LA and San Diego or whatever come out there, and that's the wilderness, and they car camp. And here we are with our backpacks. We were sitting there filling up water out of a spigot and making a lunch. I think we were making lunch.
I think it was tuna or something great.
I don't
like
know, it
that.
was something, not anything great. But this family, this mom and dad, it was 4 of them, wasn't it? Or just the 3
Just
of
the
them?
3 of
Just the
them.
3, and a little boy about 8 years old. What was his name? Emmanuel? I can't remember his name. I have a picture in our collection. And they come over to us and they act like we're rock stars. I mean, that we had no idea how impactful us
We were
hiking.
one day into the
We're
trail.
Yeah, I
one
was gonna
day.
say 20 miles.
We're
Yeah.
on day 2 because
Yeah.
we stopped
Just starting day 2.
just
yeah.
starting day 2. And they come up to us and they said, "Are you hiking the Pacific Crest Trail?" And we're like, "Yeah, we are." And this was our first encounter with strange people, or asking us questions about our hike. And they were so intrigued and so asked us all these questions. And the little boy was just, "I want to be a PCT hiker. I want to hike the PCT." And "Mom, can we do that?" And she's like, "I would love to do that, but life." And so they go back to their car, and we just kind of sit there and looked at each other, and it was just really a really nice exchange. They came back, and the little boy goes, "Can I give you these oranges?" And she goes, "My son has always wanted to be a trail angel. Is it okay? Will you take these oranges?"
I'm like, oh yeah.
Fresh fruit. Let me tell you, even we were only 2 days in, but let
Fresh
me
fruit
tell
is
you, fresh
amazing.
fruit is
Yeah.
amazing. And we were like, "Well, we would love to." And she goes, "It's just, I know it's not much." And then they go back to their spot, and they're packing up, and they come back one more time. And what did they bring us? Do you remember what they brought us?
I don't
The
remember.
hash browns.
Oh,
A box of instant
Dehydrated.
hash browns.
but you have to cook them, and we didn't carry it. We carried a stove for boiling water, and that was it, and it's a little small stove. So we took them.
I'm like, thanks, buddy.
We were like, "Thank you." We took pictures, and he goes, "Man, I really want to go with you guys. I want to hike the PCT." But he was so into what we were doing. He was 8 years old.
That's awesome.
But he felt so good about giving us 2 oranges and
they
a
were
box of hash
amazing.
browns. And let me tell you, I think I inhaled those oranges. But that was the beginning of feeling that we could make a difference in somebody's life. And it just got bigger from there. And we still do. We still want to be impactful.
Well, I'm going to follow you guys. I hope that you do
Yeah.
keep the
We will.
website and blog going.
We
and,
will.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
I'm
Yeah.
really excited to see where you end up physically, but also where you end up mentally and as your personalities and as you start to change.
I think this would be an interesting conversation a year from now.
Let's do it.
I'm really excited already
Well,
to have you guys back.
About a year from now, you'll be
Finishing.
about crossing Bridge of the Gods.
Yes. we
Yeah.
will.
So let's do it
Perfect
then.
timing.
Let's do it then.
I think I
Put
I
it in
just
our planner.
I just took a look at the PCT planner this morning for 2018, and I think I wanted to take a couple zeros and Cascade Locks so we could see family and stuff. So maybe we can make that happen.
Let's do it. And you guys have family here, so you won't need it, but there is a bed and a shower here at the museum.
Hey, yeah, we have. Luckily, we have lots of friends and lots of family, and we're really. People think we're insane. Let's just so you know
I
that.
think you're insane.
And people are not just
I don't.
doing what we're doing, but
I
also to
don't.
redo the PCT.
Yeah.
They're like, "Why didn't you just start in Truckee and go?"
Because it's not the same.
No.
It's just not the same.
Well, and there's 2 more. There's
The
the
AT
The AT and the CDT.
and the
yeah.
CDT.
Continental Divide.
But let me tell you, those are the most famous ones. But there are over
There's
200
lots.
long distance hikes throughout the country.
Yeah.
And so as we're doing this journey and we're wintertime, we're going to stay in the south. We're going to hike in the Arizona Trail. Down in Florida, there's a Florida Trail and Everglades Trail. So we're going to hop around seasonally as much as possible. And the following summer, we want to do Glacier and
Yeah.
Wyoming, Yellowstone, and things like that.
We
So-
had actually were we able to leave on time for this trip? We were actually going to go catch up on the AT right outside of Pennsylvania. We
Pennsylvania,
have a
do the
friend that
southern
lives
half.
literally 8 miles from the trail.
perfect.
I went to the trailhead when I was back there visiting my son, but that was the plan. But
It's getting too late in the year. The
Life
house didn't
happens.
sell, so we're
just going with
okay.
the punches.
We're just going with the flow, and come the end of the year, we'll be going somewhere. I don't know which direction we'll be going, but
I think I'm on to head down to Key West.
I think
We
Key
need to
West-
find a trail down to Key West. That's
There is an Everglades Trail. I've researched
and there's
it.
a margarita place in Key West, I hear.
I'm sure there's lots of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, make sure to thank Mark Howard for the introduction.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
will. Absolutely. We've known Mark
I've known him so long.
since
Grade school.
I met him in 7th grade time frame, and but
That's
he's
awesome.
Gina's
Grade
age.
school,
They
yeah.
they graduated together,
Yeah, we went
and
to
then
school.
Mark and I we were all in the Navy, but Mark and I ran into each other in San Diego.
Both
I
of
saw
you in
his
the
high
Navy.
school truck was there, and I was like, I know the guy that owns that truck. He was in a parking lot. So yeah, Mark, we've known Mark for a long time. So
Mark and Judy are good friends
We're
of ours,
very
and they're
fond of
very
those
supportive
folks.
of what we're doing. And
yeah,
they contributed to our garage sale. They bought a lot of stuff.
yes,
Nice.
they did.
Well, you'll have to let us know when the next one is. Okay.
I'll let you know. The estate sale literally is by invitation only, and I've been collecting email addresses from complete strangers, but it's literally everything in our home is
They
being
can't
sold.
case your house if you don't have anything in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm keeping. The only reason I haven't done it yet is because it stages my home for sale. As you know, as a, you know, in the mortgage
Yeah.
business, that makes a big difference. So, but there comes a point where it has to happen, and my feeling is it's going to happen by the mid to end of September. But I'll definitely let you know. Bring your checkbooks. We do take credit cards.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. This was great.
And we'll have you back on a year from now.
Sounds like it's a plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck to you
We'll
guys.
just have to have some
Thank you
cold
so
beer
much.
sitting here because I'm going to need a few.
Yes. We'll have beer and Oreos. And
Oh.
Yeah, all that good hiker food.
Just no
Pringles.
peanut butter and no Cliff Bars.
No Cliff Bars.
Okay.
If I show up and there's a Cliff Bar here,
Yeah.
We're leaving.
They just burn out, or are they too heavy?
Just burn out.
burned out on them, and they're hard to eat in the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need water.
There-
They
yeah.
just get
desert
stuck
desert
in your
water's
mouth.
few and far between.
You know, and there's so many stories, and I
Yeah.
know that, you know, the other PCT hikers have the same stories, but there was times where we were close to death. I mean, not just my fall, but the elements.
They'll get you.
We were up against some really severe stuff, and I really truly think that that's what changed our lives.
Well, you know, we started this podcast, the Hunt for Success, because we wanted to sit down with cool people that have cool versions, cool success stories in one form or another.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how we kind of have a Pacific Crest Trail. It's that time of year and everything.
It's that
but-
time of the year, yeah.
But you can take away a lot of the Pacific Crest Trail hikers. You can take away a lot of their success stories and apply it to business. And
Sure
apply
can,
it to,
yeah.
Absolutely.
to how I live my life.
Yeah.
So it's been unexpected, fun part of the podcast so far.
Definitely.
And we got another one coming on in October.
Yeah.
So I think we're talking about maybe making this a theme every summer of kind of interviewing people as they're coming through this part of the trail.
There's the people that we met that we were hiking. None of us had backgrounds in common, but we all had the common thing of doing this crazy hike.
Yeah.
I mean, 2,650 miles.
It's crazy.
6+ months for most people. I mean, some people are speedy and do it in 4.5, but you know, on the average person is going to be 5 to 6 months. And that connection goes on forever. You know, even though they may go back to their lives and they might be doctors or attorneys, or they might be slinging hash at a restaurant, or they might be heavy metal, death metal rockers, or
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we've met. I mean, so everybody goes back to their regular lives, but everybody is forever changed by this commonality that we have, and it's amazing because we can pick up the phone at any time and talk to these
Yeah,
hikers.
it's a great
So
community.
It's a great launching point for a lot of different things. That's why I think people do it when they're younger.
Well, and it's, you know, one thing our culture doesn't have is that walkabout, right?
No,
Yeah.
And so
we've lost it.
We've lost it.
We're no longer nomads.
We're going to try to find it.
Yeah.
You
I'm
guys are
excited.
going on the late life walkabout.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a new kind of retirement.
My mom said to me when I was talking to her, she goes, "So, Sean, you're going to be a vagabond?"
That's
I
what
said,
to
Mom,
Emerson.
I'm not going to be a bum. She goes, look up vagabond.
That's right.
She goes, Sean, that's not what vagabond means.
That was my impression.
Yes,
first, too.
Mother.
Okay. But no, it is.
Yeah.
It's a new kind of retirement. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
We're looking forward to it.
Well, good for you guys. Definitely inspiring. Thanks again for coming on. And,
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a pleasure meeting you guys.
Well, next time we'll have beer and Oreos.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Right.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks.
See you
Bye-bye.
next time.
Bye, you guys.